Hello, BookTube, and I'm here with Scott Danielson again,
Hello.
Nadine and Dee, and we're here to discuss Jack McDevitt's 1994 book,
Yes.
Engines of God. It's the first of a series of the Academy series. What is there, 9 volumes, I think now? I think he's got nine
And
with the
something like
prequel.
that. Yeah, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Eight.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
prequel, 9. So I guess.
Okay,
I
nine.
like that copy you had, Sean. It was a good cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. It's the British one headline. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's whoever did the artwork actually read the book, I think,
Yeah,
or at least read
That's
that
always
section.
good.
yeah, that's probably one of the best covers I've seen for the book.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, the hardcover
Hello, Ariane.
is not very nice. It's pretty plain.
Mm,
It's very plain. But
yeah.
yeah, so this is just to sort of say this is we've named it sort of the new Futurian Fellowship, and it's from the Futurians from the 1930s science fiction group that Frederick Pohl, Isaac Asimov, Damon Knight, yada yada yada, all they were in, this all came about by discussion. Specifically between me and Mark Richardson, but also Scott. We were talking about things that new sort of science fiction, which we haven't really delved in too much, but were authors that we were interested in reading. So Mark and I decided, well, let's just start something and just make a list of the ones that we knew we wanted to read, and then we just put in some other new ones and
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. So that's how this all started, and other people started joining in too. So it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Ariane's here. Hello.
Hello. And Joseph.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a strange way now to put up comments. So you gotta,
Inside StreamYard, you mean?
yeah, because usually you just clicked on it and it popped up on the screen. Now another pop up and then say add to the stage.
Oh.
I don't know why.
So they added another step, maybe to
Yes.
keep you from accidentally posting something. I don't
Yeah, I don't know.
know.
But
Well,
yeah,
very good.
so yeah, Joseph saying hello, and he can't stay long, but yeah, thanks for stopping by. So yeah,
Yeah,
so this is I've not read anything myself by Jack McDevitt before. Scott, you'd read this one before.
I had, yeah,
Yeah.
and a few short works by him as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nadine, have you read him before, or
Nope, first I've heard of him.
Hmm.
and UD, have you read?
I've read the first three of this series, but it was a really long time ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
when I reread Engines of God, it felt like reading it again the first time.
Hmm.
So usually the way I go about this thing is on the lives is give a sort of a summary of the book. So or somebody gives a summary, more or less spoiler free to begin with, and then we do get into spoilers because you can't really talk about a book without spoilers half the
Hmm.
time. So
Yeah.
who would like to give a overview of the book?
Well, I can give a
Sure.
quick version, a quick spoiler
Yep.
free version. So the book concerns this group called the Academy. I think there's a longer name, Academy of Sciences or something like that. And there's a pilot named Priscilla Hutchins. They call her Hutch. And what this group does is go do archaeology. The universe is they've found artifacts from alien races who have left things uh, on planets and moons and things like that. And the main character is this Priscilla Hutchins, who's a incredible pilot and gets people out of jams. And really, what it's doing then is it's following this unfolding archaeology as these groups discover things and discover trails of things and some ooh wow type big stuff that they come across. And I think that's a spoiler free summary. Does
Yeah.
anybody want to add anything to that?
Well, it kind of takes them on a I guess you could say adventure. They start at the temple of the water, and then it takes them to it was the black, like satellite looking thing. I don't remember how to describe it. And then that, in essence, takes them to another part of the universe where the last half of the book takes place.
Yeah. I think Sean put it well right before we were talking just a minute before this, and he called it a road trip.
There you go.
Yeah. And I would agree with that.
It's set 200 years or just under at this point, 200 years in the future. Like it's 2202, I think, is a lot of the dates for it. So it's not that far in the future, but it's an Earth where Earth is in trouble for many reasons, but environmentally, the water, like sea levels are rising, and they're looking for new places to go to live, and they're not finding too many planets at this point where humans can live. And the one where they start out on is that they're excavating. They've been excavating for 30 years, and they've ramped up the date for the terraforming. So they've got to leave, and that's where we have Hutch, Priscilla Hutchins, that she's the pilot to go to evacuate them before this happens, because there's a terraforming team that's there to explode nuclear bombs on the on the poles and throw comets into the atmosphere.
Yeah. I've actually heard Elon Musk float that for Mars.
Yeah.
Summer, hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So Earth is eager to find new planets, and they aren't finding them.
And the archaeologists, basically they get in this temple and they find the type machine that's going to help them decipher the language on the monuments. And it's kind of a race against time for them to get all that they can before this terraforming starts, because they can't get any kind of extension, despite the fact that what they have found is so important.
Yeah, because they've even found in our solar system, they had found a monument and a statue to an alien race, and they're finding these monuments throughout the galaxy where there's there were other civilizations, and they're trying to piece this together, because they're not of the, like, they'll find the monuments and then they'll find the other civilization or the remnants, but that's not, they don't think it's the same race or same aliens. So they're trying to figure this out. And that's this excavation, and they're finding that there's periods where dark ages where the civilization seems to completely disappear, like they seem to be burnt, and then they rise up again. And then there's a couple points in the galaxy they found where this has happened 3 times, and some of them have only happened once or twice. So they spent 30 years in this place, and then the terraformers coming, and basically typical of doing salvage archaeology, that the developer comes in and says, "You've had enough time." You've had enough time. You should have found everything you wanted. So, like, I've done archaeology. I've done salvage archaeology, and I've had literally and metaphorically a bulldozer revving behind me. So that's what these guys have, but nuclear bombs and comets falling from the sky. So,
wow.
And one of them gets detonated and causes the tidal wave.
Mm-hmm.
They purposely drop one of the comets to hurry them up. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna give them a little help. Hurry them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was some amazing stuff. So I don't know if we want to move into spoiler territory, but should we ask? Yeah. Did we like the book? Should we?
Yeah. I thoroughly loved it, and I want to read more for it. And Scott, did you?
Yeah. No, I did enjoy it. I read it a long time ago, and then I reread it about a month ago, and I have been meaning to move forward in the series, but I haven't. Um, but I did enjoy it. It was like Rendezvous with Rama. It reminded me of this alien artifact. And for those that aren't familiar with Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke, it's that whole book is spent exploring an alien ship that is passing through the solar system. And a lot of people find it boring, but I find it just so compelling.
I
And
love
I
it.
reread that not too long ago too. But it's just them going through this alien structure, alien ship, trying to figure out what it all means, what this is here for, why it was designed the way it was, and then just this discovery that happens throughout the book. And this reminded me of that, but it's like times 10 because they've got multiple sites, multiple things they're trying to figure out. And I found all that super compelling. And the questions aren't answered at the end. We don't have it all. I assume because he knew he was going to write more. Yeah. But overall, yeah, I did like it. How about you, Nadine?
Yeah.
I overall I liked it a lot, especially as I was reading it. It was really compelling. I think the first part with the archaeology focus part was good. It was I think I liked it the best in a way because it was so just like archaeology, it was so methodical. I felt like it was really building a whole civilization for me, that like watching them trying to piece it together slowly. I really liked all that. And then the excitement of, facing the tidal wave. And then after that, it kind of changed tone where it was more like you said, road trip adventure. And that had its own momentum. And I don't know, especially when I read science fiction, I always have this very literal mind, but wait, how did they, shouldn't they have asked somebody first before they did this? Or, like I had this feeling, especially when they were walking onto an alien planet that no one had ever been on before. And it was like they knew the air was good. And then they're just like, yeah, let's go, kind of. And I'm thinking, is maybe my mind is too 20th century or 21st century, but like, where was Houston? We have a go. That where were all the people behind there that they're spending so much money on this? Shouldn't there have been a whole team to decide what to do and how safe it would be? And so those little voices are always in my mind. But even while that's going on, I'm just having a good time because it's so creative. Such wonderful imagination.
Yeah. Well, I think because they're archaeologists, you get archaeologists in a situation like that. They don't care.
No.
I'm going in. There's bombs falling. I don't care. I'm going.
I need answers.
Yeah. How about you, D?
I liked it. I kind of echo what Nadine said. I thoroughly enjoyed the archaeology, the first half of the book. I think, when you think of sci-fi books with aliens, you're encountering the aliens, you're meeting the aliens. I can't think of too many off the top of my head where you are coming across alien civilizations that doesn't exist. So you're looking for answers and clues and you want to know more. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. I did think toward the end, it became more of a, like you said, a road trip, more danger. They get stranded out in space and might freeze to death. So yeah, it definitely changed the tone, but overall I enjoyed it because I thought the archaeology, and then I noticed a lot of the comparative mythology that they used really made the first half of the book very, very strong.
Yeah, I almost kind of wish it had been broken into a series of small novellas, because each part of the story was so different.
Yeah,
I think I would have liked it. And that way each part of the story would have had maybe a little bit more depth to it, or the depth that the first part had.
Just go for a quick comment here. Summer is asking, Nadine, it's great to see you and put a face to your name. Do you have a book channel?
Nope, just a participant. I just appreciate everybody else's.
Yeah, I like Scott. It's like Rendezvous with Rama, but it's comparable. But the one that really hit me for the structure of it, is Robert Silverberg's 1969 Across a Billion Years. It's a juvenile, sort of, but it's not quite juvenile. And it's an archaeology. It's a team of archaeologists, of humans and aliens. It's in the year 2300, I think. So it's a few hundred. It's 100 years further on, I think, if I remember right. And so there's a team of archaeologists that have been looking at sites throughout the galaxy of this race that is really old, they know, but has seemed to have disappeared. And there's aliens with the humans excavating as well. So very different aliens. He doesn't get into too much details because it is a short book, but they find something and they go on a road trip too to the home world, or what they hope is the home world of these aliens. So that's what it really reminded me of, because it was very similar. And also with the ending too, is it's sort of they solve something, they solve what they were doing at the time, and then something else sort of opens up, and it's open-ended at the end. It's like on the planet, they solved some things while they were doing this, but then once they knew the frequency of these burn periods, the dark ages, they put together, and then they then something else happens, and then that moves them on to the next phase, which is the road trip, and then they solve that, and then something else happens. Another question comes up, which they don't answer. The author doesn't answer. It's ambiguous. It's left open at the end and it's the beginning of a series. So I guess, you want to keep them reading. So you don't tell everything, I guess, right at the beginning.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So he published this in 1994. One interesting thing is he was like 59, I calculated. He was born in 1935. So his whole writing career was late in life and is still going on. He's 90 today.
Wow.
Not his birthday isn't today, but he'll be 90 in April this month. But anyway, he wrote Engines of God in 1994, and the sequel came out in 2001. So I thought that was an interesting gap. So I think that it certainly feels like he knew he was going to write more in this universe. But it kind of took a while for him to get to it.
Yeah, and like Nadine was saying, going back to how they described the archaeology, and I thought they did a really good job with that, and also too with the mythology and comparative with. It's interesting how everything is obviously going to be from the human perspective, and then so they're giving Earth dates which are completely meaningless to these alien races. But it does, it centers and gives you a framework of doing this. And then the way he does this, because you got at the beginning, you got this weird statue that's found, on I think a moon of Saturn, and he doesn't come back to it for a long time. And also too, little things are put in there about what's happening on Earth, like how they really need a planet to move to. And then the question is, well, can they maybe re-terraform Earth? So there's little bits and pieces in there. And then he throws in Sodom and Gomorrah, because it's just thrown in and left. And I'm going, oh, okay. So it's like he's got all these strings out there. And then, during the road trip, he starts pulling them in, but you don't get an answer to everything. But I thought the way he did the comparative things are quite good, because he even, they don't get into deep discussions about history and the form of history, but he names things like Toynbee, about the cyclical nature of history, which again, it's like, I thought it was a bit maybe odd for there, because I don't know how many people not many people read Toynbee anymore. he wrote this huge 11 volume, sort of showing that civilizations rise and fall. And so they were talking about that, saying that that's what is just natural in the universe. But, so that gives a little more depth as well there, but from a human perspective. And I really liked the way he did this, and how also too he portrayed the archaeologists, because they're in a very, very dangerous place, like under this temple, and then after the tsunami comes in, it's even more dangerous. But yeah, like I say, these are archaeologists. They'll go back anyway, because they want this
Oh, it's an
printing
amazing
press.
thing that they found.
Yeah, they're calling it
it's
a
like
printing press.
the Rosetta Stone, right?
Yeah. So yeah, there's the other thing that he's comparing this to, because they're looking for a Rosetta Stone. So he's throwing things in that that everybody would be familiar with. Everybody knows the term Rosetta Stone. So I thought it was just great while he was doing it, and then he's throwing some other stuff in that's a little more obscure, but it just worked for me. It all comes together, and you still don't know who these aliens are, what happened to them. They might have left the galaxy. We're left with the possibility that these aliens were partially destroyed as well by this cloud that comes through that they're calling Omega Cloud. They don't know where this is coming from, and they're trying to help other races by creating these monuments that will deflect it, but it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just continuing on, and it's going to hit Earth again, and it's just all this, and it's just left as they think that this alien race was trying to help people, and then just finally decided to bugger off to a melogenetic not pronouncing it correctly, cloud, like to another galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the whole thing, is like, were they like that, or is it going to turn out that they're the ones that created this thing? They're the ones that are trying to destroy civilizations in the galaxy. It's all these possibilities that's sometimes I really like anyway, ambiguity sometimes.
Yeah. And that's the way archaeology is, right? I mean, they find these sites, and they're trying to deduce what was happening here, what the significance of this thing was, and and I'm talking about in real life archaeology. And in this, I mean, it felt real. It felt like how they were doing it, how they dated things was interesting. Everything from, boy, this is something around 9,000 BC, to being able to have a definite date because they found a picture of the alignment of the planets, and they could calculate when the last time that happened was, and so they were down to the year on that one. I just found it fascinating that way.
Yeah, and the technology was interesting. As time, they have no spacesuits. Well, sort of. It's just a energy field that's around them, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was the first thing I thought of was Dune with their their fighting suits, but obviously it's something different. But that was the first thing I thought of.
Do you remember the?
Yeah, I love that. It was like the Kiplinger suit or something, and it was like you just kind of throw it over your shoulders, and then you're just walking around in this little clear bubble. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you remember the old animated Star Trek?
Yeah, a long time since.
Yeah, well, they had something like that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, that's an obscure thing, but hey. Yeah.
Does anybody remember how long they said the cloud was going to take to get to Earth?
Well, there was a couple things, but then they realized it was going to be 1,000 years. I think. I think that was their final estimation, because it seems to be it's cyclical in a way, because it's coming from a whole bunch of them actually are just going through the galaxy, and it's. Because we don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. Like, is it an intelligence?
You'd think that he would return to that, and there is a volume called Omega.
Omega, yeah, I think that's where he does.
1, 2, 3, 4, book 4. Yeah.
It just reminded me of a three-body problem where the aliens that are coming to take over Earth are 400 light years out. So how are you going to prepare for that?
Yeah.
And the basis of three-body problem was they messed up with their science, so they couldn't prepare for that. So I'm curious as the series develops how McDevitt, how the Earth, knowing these omega clouds are coming, what they're going to do to prepare for it, especially when they're in a situation where they're trying to get to another planet anyway to terraform, since the Earth is becoming, inhabitable for them to live on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is too that new planet they're going on is just going to have that happen to them again anyway.
Yeah.
But it looks like at the end of this, then it does say that they did terraform the planet quicker than they expected for 50 years, and people are moving in there. But the other planet, as Nadine was saying, they just decided to, let's go for a walk, in these ruins. That looks like it's a place they can move in immediately with some exterminators for crabs,
Yeah.
and who knows what else is there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, that was a difficult moment there.
And the other thing I thought that he did quite well was because you have this, if you saw it on TV, they'd have a timer at the top, of the countdown to the nuclear explosion, that they have to leave. But he does that with the short chapter headings, and they're short too. So there was a lot of momentum that was going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just kept that up when they are on the road trip, but it was a bit slower because, but then when they hit the telescope, there was the clock again ticking down for them to die. So in some ways he's repeating himself, that there's a disaster that's happening, but these are things. It's not a perfect book, but it's just, to me, those are things that I put aside and go for the ride, and that's what this is. It's just I think it's just a fabulous ride.
It's a well-paced book. It is a well-paced book. The first half is paced a little bit better, but based off the situations they find themselves in with the telescope and then being on the planet, the pacing fit the situation that they were in. So I thought he handled that pretty well.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, he could have stayed on the planet or actually ended the book with them leaving. That could have ended it there, and then the sequel could have been, them discovering something else and moving on. And there's always that thing. They're always discovering something else, and then it's then you go to that area. So it's a long book. It's fairly long. It's 500 in mine, 530 pages, I think,
or 16 in the paperback.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's it's larger print, I think. But yeah, so theoretically, he could have done it as two short books, and that may have been better. I don't know. It's just because you definitely would want, they could leave it really as a cliffhanger for the first, so you could have left it as a cliffhanger, and then you'd really want to read the second one.
I think if you would have done the whole novel along the archaeological lines, it probably been one of those where they would have been talking Hugo Nebula Award winner, because I thought he hit the archaeology really well. Because if something like this really happens, we're going to have to define a new school of thought in archaeological situations, because we're going to have to take our archaeology as a foundation, and then as we're studying an alien race, incorporate how we're going to study them. What in our society can we use to compare to these aliens, and then what's not going to work. So it's going to be a new school of thought. I thought he addressed that pretty good at points and times in the novel.
Yeah, I would have loved something like that. I would love to have like a 600-page book that was really deep into the archaeology and more stuff like that. But I think for the general reader, that might not. It might win. It would definitely or could very well win an award like a Hugo Award or something like that, and probably gain interest over time. But I don't think it would be. I think he needed that second part of the action to interest the general reader. I think
that was the conflict. You needed that conflict.
Exactly.
You had to raise the stakes.
Yeah. So and maybe I don't know what the how this was written. Maybe his editor or the publisher says, "Oh, you got a really good story here, but yeah, there's not a huge conflict. There's no action much other than the tsunami, you know." So and then he writes the rest of it, which fits. But yeah, I would love to have a 600-page story that would go into it, because I love science fiction that deals with archaeology, and there's only a few that I think that deal with it well.
Yeah, there was a quote that I wrote down, but we don't know anything about these people. We don't know what was important to them, how they thought about themselves, what they would have thought about us. But chapels and temples tend to be places which reveal the highest values of the civilizations they represent. So I thought that was one of those things to where, you know, kind of new line of thought. You know, what would they have thought about us? You know, would we just be bugs, or, you know, people that just don't have long enough lifespan to contribute anything to the universe?
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is too that they were able to translate some of the language and the poetry, and that's where they get the engines of God, and that's, I guess they're calling this Omega cloud the engine of God or something like that. That's coming to just roll over civilization, because that's what it seems, or at least that's my take from it, is that this thing, whatever it is, does not like civilization. So if you're at a certain level of civilization, this thing is going to come after you. But what is it? Ariane made a point here. Yeah, I agree about the pacing. It was well done. Yeah.
So I wonder what people think about the characters. If they think the characters had depth and development, and if they felt real and, you know, distinctive, each one being distinctive.
I thought they were pretty good, because each of the archaeologists and the other ones, I thought they were pretty distinct, and he did it in an interesting way. I thought, rather than through the narrative, he was doing it through the dialogue. He was describing one character by another character through dialogue or some thought, but then that also, how they did that, defined them to a certain extent as well. And he did it. He did it in a very small period or way of doing it, rather than, you know, big descriptions. I think the dialogue and everything, I think it all fit for what they were doing. But yeah, they didn't really, you know, nobody sat around and talked too much and just gossiped, in a sense, or talked about things until they actually went on the road trip. There was a little bit of that. The rest of it was all business talk. It's like anytime Hutch is talking, it's like, you know, they're on the clock. So that will only give you a certain depth, I think, of character. But I think it worked. I think it worked for the situation.
Yeah. There was a little bit that was kind of dated, and it wasn't enough that it bothered me in the way it dealt with women. It was very uneven, because in a way, I mean, the main characters, the heroes, you know, were women, really, as much as the men, if not more. And so women definitely had a lot of agency and a lot of, you know, character and all of that. But he did focus on the way they looked more than the male characters, really. And they were just coincidentally beautiful often. And that just felt a little dated. And I remember there was one brief moment where Hutch is first comes to the station, the archaeology station. And the guy that meets her says, boy, you're even better looking than I was told. And she kind of nods and smiles. And I thought, we could have just, those 4 sentences, just cut that out.
Leave it out.
And, maybe in the future, if they do another edition, just cut that little part out, because Hutch would not have done that. Not my Hutch. She would not have smiled and been flattered.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then there was the interpersonal relationships. I think that was especially, we had a real light shown on it when they were thinking they were going to die in the ship, and they're running out of air, waiting for rescue. So we saw a lot of that interpersonal stuff there. I'm not stating anything other than it was there. You know what I mean? Like when you think you're going to die, what's that like? Wasn't explored too heavily, but it was there.
Yeah. Well, there are things like there's the one line that you always see with things, and I always smirk at it because people actually say this in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Is when she introduced herself, Hutch, she says, "Oh, but friends call me Hutch." She never met this person before, so my reaction is always, "Okay, well, I don't know you. We're not friends yet, so I'm not going to call you Hutch yet." But it's just that always makes me smile when I see that, or you see it in real life, because people do that, and I'm going, "Well, we don't know each other, so I can't call you." You're basically telling me I can't call you Hutch until I'm friends with you. But that's not what it means.
Yeah. Is that an invitation or
Yeah.
You have to ask, so does that mean I call you Hutch or not?
Right.
What do you
Mm-hmm.
And there's another part that I thought was pretty good, and it was the flip side of a lot of things where what is it, Melanie, I think it is, the one of the head of the terraformers, she was talking about, well, men are okay when they get together. She's thinking with IQ and stuff like that, but the IQ drops when a woman enters the room. And I sort of laughed at that, but it's like, that's clearly a sexist remark, but that's fine. Like, I'm fine with, because people do say stuff like that. People think these kind of things.
Sometimes stereotypes are rooted in truth.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, I was okay with that kind that Nadine, you were saying about look, these people have been on this planet for 30, or some of them were there for 30 years with hardly anybody else around. So that's how I sort of took it. And then but then at the end, where it talks about that, about Hutch, and it does say something that she's still good looking, but maybe not as good looking as people think, or something. There's something to that effect, which I thought was a little strange. And it wasn't dialogue, but yeah, no, like, to me, the dialogue worked for where they were and what they were doing. And people do say stuff that they shouldn't say. People open their mouths and say stuff, and you get archaeologists, or especially archaeologists together, or people that are focused so much on one thing. They don't a lot of times have very good interpersonal skills. So that's how I sort of took it. And because, most of the time it's just a business thing. And then they're trying to make conversation. And sometimes it's not the right way.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. To me, it just felt more like the author than the characters. It was just something that maybe if the author wrote it 30 years later, or maybe his later books don't do that.
Maybe not. Dee, you said you've read a couple, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
Do you know does this kind of stuff improve, or?
I honestly don't remember. I really don't. I know when I joined the group and I saw that this book was the one chosen, I had this idea that, I remember Hutch being this great character, and I didn't get that the second time around. I thought the archaeologists were very well characterized, but I didn't feel Hutch was as developed, at least as I remember. And I know the series from here out does revolve around her. So I'm assuming there's more character development with her as the story goes. But yeah, I can't remember.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting that you say, you know, the future volumes revolve around her, and then so that just makes you wonder: as the author, did he later, you know, because of the big gap, did he later say, "Oh, I'm going to focus on her"?
Yeah.
You know, was he planning that at the beginning or not? I don't know, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's almost one of those things too, where sometimes an author will write a book, and a character will just really take off.
Yeah.
So then they build their series around that. But I didn't feel that with Hutch, that this was a character that somebody would look at and say, "Oh, I want to see more about her."
Yeah.
I mean, she was brave. She was a great pilot. There was a little personal stuff in the beginning where she went to Earth and was talking to the guy that she'd had a relationship with. That just didn't do anything for me. So that's why, like I said, I had remembered her as a better character.
Yeah.
But not one that I would think somebody would want to build a series around.
Yeah, I really did like her. You know, I mean, in science fiction, we see so often the it's usually a man. You know, the one who can do everything, right? And in this one, it was Hutch, and she, you know, saved the ship. You know, when they thought they were going to die, and saved people with her skills and stuff like that. You know, so I really like that, and I did like her as a character. You know, I don't know, so I'm not sure what I'm getting that you didn't get on that second time, but maybe it's the future volumes that revolve more around her, that maybe that's what you're remembering, and seeing her as something more developed, maybe.
The other thing I was thinking about was, now you've got this, it's all archaeology, or at least the plot and the story is archaeology. Now, if you want to continue a series, then okay, you either going to center it around, I guess, a character, which he did, and then, or it's always going to be archaeology, because it's called the Academy series, so it's going to be everything the Academy does, but they're not, by sounds of it, solely archaeology. It looks like there's scientific, you know, groups that are going out, and she is sort of the glue for all this. She's the one that can bounce around to all these groups. So maybe maybe she did become a favorite at, maybe with the reviews and stuff like this. So we thought, yeah, I'll use her to bounce around to these other things, because she's not stuck just with the archaeologist. See, I kind of thought that she was an archaeologist before I read it. I thought she was an archaeologist, but no, she's a pilot. She's picked up stuff. She knows about archaeology. She probably knows about other scientific areas too, because of her job. But I think that's what it is, that she's the one that will allow the author to explore other areas, but keep something familiar through a thread throughout.
Yeah, because I think, you know, the direction he went with the book, with now these, you know, these mega clouds are going to be the threat. Now you kind of pushed the archaeologists to the backside. You don't need archaeology to study these threats. So now Priscilla would become a key element, because she's experienced with them. She's a pilot. So going forward, she's the best character to be around and help deal with that threat.
Yeah. Other than, you could, I guess, as an author, he could have, you know, the next book could be just, again, finding another planet, exploring more about the race that's disappeared. You know, you could keep it just solely archaeology, but again, sometimes that is not something that is, I don't think, that popular. So like you need, like, for people to read this, you need conflict, you need things happening.
Especially to have 8 books in the series. You
Exactly.
can't do 8 books.
And I would assume, you know, when I think of this book, I think archaeology. Do we continue in Deep Six? I mean, there's still archaeology going on, I would assume.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
what I'm wondering.
Hopefully it doesn't shift gears completely to that. But you're right in that Hutch is the character around it which everything revolves, and that's a really nice observation. and to take that character is one you could move on with, because people can come in and out of the ship, and you can have that be the center.
Yeah, she's the glue that holds everything. Sort of, well, glue is not the best thing. It's I can't think of the word, but it's that type of thing.
Yeah. And he did give her more depth, because at one point when everyone was saying that, what she did, she saved people's lives, and all she could think was, no, I was the one that put them in danger. And then, kind of at the last minute, I came up with some ideas, but she basically took the blame on herself. And that makes her a more interesting character.
The one thing that I found that that he had her tearing up and crying more than I was expecting for her character to do up to that point. So that was it. But I think he was trying to say that she's not just cold; she is emotional. She has emotion. But maybe, like for me, and this is the thing: each person comes reading something, I think, with a bit of baggage, their own baggage, and it's like, I thought there might have been too many times that this happened, but somebody else may say, no, it's perfect amount, or not enough to show the emotion. So these are like niggling little things that don't really mean a whole lot to me, but it's just, when I read it, I thought, oh, again, because, but I see what he's doing. But yeah, like I say, somebody else reads it and thinks it's fine. But it's such a small thing that I just sort of pass it by.
Well, and I think she's like, if you think like an airplane pilot, they're responsible for the people that they're carrying. So, when she feels that responsibility, I think it's really heavy on her. And
that's an easy way to show it. Like that's the thing. It's like he's very conservative with his words a lot of times, and that shows a lot. Like a dialogue, when a person says something nasty to another character, or one character says something nasty to another character, and it might be correct about that other character. So you're getting something about that character, but also at the same time, from the mouth of the person, they're condemning themselves for saying it, if you see what I mean. It's like it's a very concise way of saying things without a lot of description.
Sure.
It's just boom, it's there. And he might not have done it as good as it could be done, but I think that's what he was trying to do. At least that's how I took it as.
The seeds were there. The seeds were there. I definitely she had enough character, in my opinion. He had something to build on going forward.
Really enjoyed Hutch as a character. Summer says, and Ariane says also really liked Hutch. And then Summer says again, this was something that I was thinking too. I expected them to be even more upset after the crabs and deaths.
Yeah,
but they're still in this situation. So, this is how I took it was. Yeah, you'd think you'd be more upset, but they're still in this situation. They're probably still in shock. They haven't actually had time yet to reflect fully on what's happening. So that'll probably come later. And also, sometimes that doesn't work well in a book to show all those details. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like in movies, you got an action movie. You got somebody, killing the bad guys. There's no emotional attachment there. Mm-hmm. If you put the emotional attachment in, it destroys the momentum of the story. It's maybe more real, but it doesn't. It's not good copy. It's not a good story then. Sometimes to do that, I think.
Well, there was the one scene where Hutch, and I don't remember the name of the character that was the language translator. After the temple scene, she pretty much confronted her and blamed her.
Yeah.
And then later, realized, okay, that wasn't cool. Now we've reached another part of the story, and they, kind of make amends and work together better.
Yeah, you see often in movies where there is some acknowledgement of that, tragedy, even if it's at the end,
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
laying a flower on a grave or something like that.
yeah.
He didn't give us
small.
he didn't give us anything, so I don't disagree with Summer at all. It's that was just a little quick.
Yeah, it
He
was.
he
Yeah.
could have done something to acknowledge that was painful.
Well, they did have the memorial,
Mhm.
a memorial service at the end, and so
Yeah,
there was,
there
everybody
was
had a
something.
chance to process there a little.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's that's what I mean. Like I think he's it's not a perfect book, and
Oh,
and
sure.
even
Yeah,
and even if he did take a little more time to do it, I'm sure somebody will say, "Well, you got too much. You don't
too
need
much of
that in there."
that.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's everything. It's like I said. I thought for her to be tearing up so many times, I thought for her character it seemed a little too much. But then I understand what it was doing. But then again, it might be just perfect, But
Yeah.
again, it's niggling at little
Yeah.
things that sometimes you can niggle it to death,
Mhm.
and lose the picture of the wonder of the story. I think that's
Yeah, and
that's what
that's the
happens
thing right
sometimes.
there. When I remember this book, what I remember is the awe of the archaeological sites
Yeah,
and how it would make me feel to sit there at an alien statue and wonder how long it's been here, and those kinds of things. That's what I read. My favorite science fiction is a kind that does that kind of thing, that makes me feel awe. And this one did. Yeah.
This would make a good like Netflix series, not necessarily a movie, but I think if they did like
Mhm.
8 episodes, maybe going over the first 2 books. I think it'd be really interesting.
I think so too.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it would work out well because it is very. I think I was talking to Ariane if she's still here, and she mentioned that it seemed very cinema. Or I can't remember the exact words, but it's some of the dialogue seemed like it'd be dialogue from a movie.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's not the best in dialogue. I will admit that. And sometimes with science fiction and movies, you got clip dialogue, and like I say, it's very conservative. You're trying to get the biggest bang for your buck, so you would you say things in a certain way, or he has the character say it in a certain way that in real life they probably wouldn't say it in that way, but it fits for the story because sometimes, like, I don't know, I feel sometimes if you make some things too real life, it ruins it.
Yeah, that's not why we're reading sci-fi to in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
maybe you want enough. You want enough to like a situation to go, yeah, I understand that. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, there was points in there when the guy goes by, and it's like he wants the pretty princess. Well, we should shore this up, and it's like, well, I'm going in anyway. And it's like I can, that I can understand. It's stupid. It's reckless. You could die. You could take somebody with you, but that's real. That's real. I can see these people doing that.
Yeah.
And I did make a note. I know the first part of the book they had the news desk headlines that kind of ended each
Yeah.
chapter, and I thought some of them were eerily similar to things that either were going on now or the direction that we're going.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Society.
Just
Yeah.
briefly, Ariane is saying she could definitely see it as a movie or series. But yeah, I forgot about those. Those I thought were really good because, again, he's setting up, without going into detail. You don't need to go into the detail. He's showing you in a very conservative and very concise way that the Earth is screwed. We are screwed because you're reading this, and I think he's got sympathy for the archaeologists that they should be given more time to do this. But on the other side, you get sympathy for the others because Earth is screwed. You have to do something. So and yeah, you're going to destroy this information. You're going to destroy this information. Ooh, what happened there?
Yeah, there's no perfect answer to that because
Yeah.
I was back and forth. It's like, okay, this isn't important. We want these answers, but at the same time, you're jeopardizing lives by not getting this planet ready to move humanity there.
Yeah, but I also felt that it's very similar to salvage archaeology, at least in Canada, and I'm sure the same all over the world, where they have a deadline for something. An extra few hours or an extra day, one way or another, isn't going to make or usually make or break things. But these guys were hard ass, and it was no, we got the deadline, we're doing it, we're dropping the nukes now. And they knew that they didn't have, Hutch didn't get them all out, or she's in the process of doing this. Just hold off for a few minutes, they are leaving, but and that's where, to me, the sympathy towards them disappeared, because they were too deadline orientated.
There was one archaeological moment later on that I thought really missed, and that's when they found the space station, the abandoned space station. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but enough to say there were a lot of artifacts on that space station. And I realized they weren't there on an archaeological dig, and they weren't there to document all that. But I don't remember any talk about, well, later a team will come and, explore this. Because I'm like, wait a minute, you can't just leave. I want to know more about this, this space station. A lot has happened here, but yet, boom, we were gone on to the next thing.
That was definitely where the novel shifted its focus.
Yeah, because it definitely, it did their shift. But I think it was sort of unwritten that they are going to have somebody to come back. But and that's why they didn't touch much. They didn't do anything. And then they went to the planet, and then they started finding everything. But then because they could go out and actually feel things without their suit, without their encounter suit, I think that was a big thing too. And they're the first humans on this planet, and breathing the air and everything. Like, I think that all sort of rises to the top with them, and it's like, forget about the space station. That we'll just put that out of mind for the moment. Which it's like it could have only taken a sentence to say, definitely that they got to come back for it. But then again, do you need to say that every time? I guess that. See, again, this is the kind of thing where the author is he going to have to say the same thing all the time, or you say it enough times that you realize this is their procedure, so you don't need to explain it again.
Say it once, and then you just know, they know that they're gonna this is gonna happen. The characters are aware that, hey, we found something here that we want to explore, but for right now we have to move on and go do this.
See, what interested me more at this was the telescope that was organic. That there's some spiders in there weaving this thing back, to full size. And it's like, they just moved on there again too.
It might be the same spiders that are in Children of Rune.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, I guess it's just sort of a testament to his creativity that he presents something, you say, oh my God, that's fascinating. And then boom, you're somewhere else.
And I think that's part of the ambiguity of it too, because, he allows you to sort of go, what was this organic thing? Why are these, aliens? These are the aliens that left the monuments. Why are they in a space station that is thousands of years older and less technological than they are, they are at the time? How did what happened there? Because obviously, at that same time, the telescopes are there, which is a leap in technology compared to the space station. Now, would they have just left the space station there for thousands of years with bodies on it? Possibly, I suppose, but
Yeah.
But it's just I think it and that's where it allows. I do love stuff that's that allows you to suppose. and everybody can think of the reader can think of what is happening here, and the author doesn't tell you sometimes fully. It's like, Scott, we're reading, I'll bring in Simak here, but there's times where he just drops ideas, and you're going, what? You're there's so many ideas that he doesn't even continue on, and it's just they're amazing, and it just and you could just talk for hours on just those possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the author tells you everything, how long does that take to talk about?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
the sense
good.
of awe that you said, and the sense of wonder.
Yeah. Love it. Well, great.
So I think, does anybody else? So would you continue reading this, Nadine, or the series, or?
I think I would. I think I need maybe a little break before, like you
Oh, yeah.
said, it had strengths and weaknesses, but I think the creativity would pull me back, and I'd want to go on another adventure.
Cool.
D, would you? Yeah, well, you have read several of them, yeah.
Yeah, I would read Deep Six and to see, what direction he takes it from there. I would probably read Deep Six and then make a decision whether I was going to push through the remaining 6 novels after that.
Yep, I definitely will.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I will too. It's it's like I mentioned to Ariane as well in a conversation of there's things that I will forgive science fiction stories for where I won't in other stories. I will take bad dialogue. I will take characters that are cardboard characters if there's something there that pulls me in. But I can't do that with other genres half the time. It's just if the characters are bad, that's it, because there's nothing else sometimes. And here with science fiction, you've got the ideas that can keep you going.
You bet.
Definitely agree.
Why did that disappear? Ariane says, I don't think I would read further, but I think I've changed my mind since listening to this discussion.
Oh, that's cool.
I would do a buddy read with somebody of this if there's a couple of people that wanted to read it.
Yeah, I'm definitely in, D.
I will continue, but that's mainly because I have so many other things I want to read.
Boy, I hear that too.
Yeah,
Tell
because
me
the
about
next
it.
one, I do have the second one, the Deep Six, and it's about another 30 or 40 pages longer. I think it's a bit longer. And then we've got, which is our next book, where is it? There it is. And that's even longer. It's 600 pages in this edition.
I'm really looking forward to this. This has been on my list for a while.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, you've read it? Great.
Yeah.
Good.
I read that one, and I read the second one, and I haven't gotten to the third yet.
How was the second one? I honestly, I did not like the first one. Ecological sci-fi just doesn't ring with me, but I'm curious what you thought of the second one.
The second one wasn't quite as strong to me as the first one. The species that we're dealing with now are octopuses, and I don't feel like I quite got the essence of them as a civilization the way I did with the spiders.
Yeah.
You just pretty much made it that I'm not going to read the second one.
An octopus problem.
Yeah.
Octopus. Yeah.
I had a hard enough time getting through ants and spiders.
Well, that's interesting. So
yeah, I have no idea what it's about. I never even read it back.
Yeah, I know almost nothing other than it's Tchaikovsky and.
I apologize.
Please don't.
No, I'm fine with spoilers. Like the only thing with spoilers that is a crime novel. I don't want to know who did it. Everything else is fine.
It's not a major spoiler, but that's probably something I should have let you guys discover yourself. I apologize.
No worries at all. Yeah.
Yeah, if somebody has an insect phobia, they don't want to read Children of Time.
No.
Good to know.
Yeah, it says it's the winner of the Arthur C. Clarke Award.
Yeah. So I've read a little bit of Tchaikovsky. I read a novella called Elder Race. It was very good. Trying to think of something else. It seems to me I read something else by him. But yeah, he's publishing a lot nowadays.
Yeah, I hear what is it? Alien Clay, I think is his newest one, and it's getting a really good reception.
And that's already didn't the third one of this just come out like last year?
Maybe he's incredibly prolific,
Yeah,
and they're all long.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
a frequent
he
length too.
publishes several, and he does fantasy, I think, too. Yeah, so he's all over the place. Very good.
When was this? This was written. Oh, it's not very good light for this. 2000, either 15. I think 15. I can't see it. It's too small.
Yeah.
Aaron assassinated. Doesn't he have 3 or more series?
Yeah. 2015.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
But I don't know. Does he have ongoing things, or does he just do trilogies?
I think yes. So
Oh,
yeah, I think
all these
seriously, he's just publishing a lot. Yep.
But no, yeah, I'm glad we did this, the Jack McDevitt one, and I love archaeology in science fiction because it's the one place that they do it better than other genres. Sometimes they just don't have a sensibility for archaeologists or what archaeologists actually do, because I started reading. I started reading. Somebody told me about this book that I should read because it's about archaeologists and it's really good. And because they go on an excavation and they find dinosaurs, they're digging up dinosaurs, and I'm going, it's not archaeology.
Yeah.
But there's dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park in space.
Well, that wasn't science fiction. It was somebody got mixed up and thought, archaeologists dig up dinosaurs.
No.
Or I love it at the other times too, where it's in a book where they've got a metal object or something like that, and they say they're going to carbon date it. You can't carbon date.
Yeah, metal.
Yeah.
It's not organic.
Ariana's saying she'd like to read more with archaeology. I'd be looking for those. Yeah, if you do, it's a short novel. It's they call it a juvenile one, but I'm not sure. Across a Billion Years by Robert Silverberg, 1969. But it's got the same structure as this: excavation, then road trip.
Yeah. And I would recommend Rendezvous with Rama if you haven't read that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually the book that got me back into reading a lot. I was TDY and just didn't have much to do when I wasn't in my class. So I stopped by a bookstore, and Arthur C. Clarke did 2001, which is one of my favorite movies. So I was like, I'll grab this and read it, and just tore through it. I loved it.
Wow, this is interesting. I just looked up Rendezvous with Rama. It looks like the guy who directed Dune is going to do Rendezvous with Rama.
He's doing it after Dune Messiah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hope that should be really interesting. Yeah. Indiana Jones or a paleontologist.
Yeah.
That's great.
He's also doing a movie about Cleopatra, which has kind of got me interested. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that.
I'd be in.
Like my first experience with him was the Blade Runner film. Yeah, and I am no stranger to long films. 7-hour silent film, and I can watch this. And I don't look at the time. I looked at the time so many times at the Blade Runner one because it was just, I found it so tedious.
I enjoyed it, but it could have been a little bit shorter.
That's so funny.
I'm watching this and painting my nails. I hope that doesn't mean that the IQ was dropped drastically.
That is awesome.
That's right. I'll repair a motor while you're doing that so we can balance out.
Yeah. No, I thought that was I just thought it was, if anything, I sort of thought when I read that was, if there's any sexism towards women, that line balanced it out. If there's any sexism one way, so he's got sexism the other way, balances it out, it evens it out.
Oh, too funny. Wow. Well, this was a pleasure, y'all.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Nadine and Dee, both.
Yeah. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and hopefully it won't be as late for the next one, but we'll see. It's mostly because of me with my health and issues that I had with StreamYard here. But hopefully,
is this the free version of StreamYard, or do you subscribe?
This is the free. I was running out last month of time because you get 20 hours per month.
Okay.
And then it said, I can do a free trial. So I clicked on it, and it just automatically put me to the free trial. And then it said, I got it for a week. And then after that, I no longer have any time left.
Wow.
So it was like, okay, so how do I do this? But no, what it did, it didn't say this. It restarted the clock. So I went back to the beginning of 20, and I'm going, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that until it actually happened. So
yeah, I just did a book discussion with another booktuber friend of mine, and I used Zoom, but you only get a 40-minute discussion out of that. And I had looked into StreamYard, but I just didn't quite get I didn't quite understand what you got with the freebie, whether it would be good enough to do a book discussion. So it's good that I got a chance to sit in and do this. So definitely something I'll probably look into more, because that's kind of what I want to do with my channel. I want to have more discussions with other booktubers.
Oh, you have a channel? Oh, do we know what the channel is?
It's called The Reading Room, 1972.
Okay, I'm not sure if I had that. I don't think I'll definitely put that into the description there.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah,
very good.
I missed that somewhere along the line. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, StreamYard is pretty good. Like I say, it's 20 hours, and it's just too expensive. I think to get the unlimited version, it's something like $80 or $90 US a month, and it's like, whoa.
That's what drove me away from it.
That's great. Over here, I got the trailer for Cleopatra going on here. It looks good. Sign me up.
Is it the Elizabeth Taylor one?
I'll tell Sean. No, it's actually Zendaya.
Oh gosh!
Whoa!
2025. It says it's coming out. So did he jump?
Claudette Colbert was the best.
Or is this? Or is this even? Oh, I don't even think this is real.
Okay.
Sorry. Somebody in the comments says this is random movie clips, deepfakes, and AI. So
I could see her playing Cleopatra,
but
though.
Apparently she is attached to the movie, though. That's what I'm seeing anyway. So. Anyway, sorry to get the internet excited about Cleopatra.
Well, that was another reason not to watch it.
Oh man, I'm in. I like her. She's neat.
No, I'm just excited for Dune Messiah. That's what I'm waiting on.
I'm so curious.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it because it's Dune.
I'm so curious as to how he's going to do it. I hope he gets at least the flavor of Dune Messiah, which is a downer.
Well, I think what he has the opportunity to do, since Dune Messiah is 12 years after, I think he's got the opportunity to actually show some of the jihad that occurred before that.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks for stopping by, everybody.
Take care, all.
Everybody have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.